Hello and welcome to Willows Green Permaculture. There's a lot going on in the garden and in the food forest in this first and second week of April. And I'd like to give you an idea of all the different activities that are going on. From using the new greenhouse to putting up cattle panel to transplanting and to sowing seeds to new Beehive. So let's get started. Here's our Beehive setup. I've got it set up on 4 little mini skids just to raise it up. It's a Beehive I built a few years ago with a friend. And my friend, he used it for a year or two. And now I decided to finally set it up here. There are no bees in it because I'm doing an experiment this year where I want to see if I can attract a swarm of honeybees apparently using lemon balm. And well, we have lots of lemon balm growing all over the garden. It's one of our companion plants. It's one of the ways we use to mask our other plants. We have so many other aromatic plants too. Here we have a bunch of oregano that's coming up as well. Here we have some yarrow coming up here in early April. So I'm gonna look it up. I'm not sure exactly how you're supposed to use the lemon balm. I've heard essential oil, but I'm not gonna bother using that because I've got the real thing. And so I'm gonna research it and see if I can use lemon balm and maybe other herbs to attract a swarm of honeybees to our Beehive. Because if we can attract a swarm of honeybees to our Beehive, then maybe they'll be really adapted to this area, because obviously they will have come from this area. And the Beehive, as you can see, is surrounded by raspberry. So it's protected. It's also inside the garden, so it's protected by the fence from animals that might want to come. It's surrounded also by raspberries, so it's also going to be surrounded by blooms, and it's also going to have so many flowers from everything that's going to be growing in the garden here. And as well, the other thing is I'll be passing close to it all the time, working in the garden, and so the bees will very much get used to my scent. And so when it comes at some point to harvest a little bit of honey, the bees shouldn't get all stressed when I do that, because they'll be used to having me around. Here's Farah la Farouche munching on some lemon balm. Lemon balm is one of the 2 or 3 different plants that are also used as catnip, or known as catnip. And as you can see, she's really enjoying it. We have lemon balm growing everywhere, and the cats just love it. They go crazy over it. And so I'll have plenty of lemon balm to use for the Beehive. I just have to figure out what precisely I'm supposed to do with the lemon balm in order to attract the swarm of honeybees to the Beehive. It's April 10th today, and this is the earliest I've ever seen the rhubarb come up. Really happy about that. Early April is sorrel harvesting time. Just a little bit, a few handfuls every couple days to put in a salad. And I'll take a little bit of oregano with that, and I'll cut a few green onions with that. And also, there are lots of dandelions around the garden. I'll show you in a few minutes, and I'll take those as well. And anytime I find some evening primrose in a place where I don't necessarily need it to grow, I will harvest the root as well, because this is the best time to harvest the root of evening primrose. You can just eat it raw and it's so sweet. Here's some of the dandelion that I've been harvesting. You can see some of the leaves are cut there. Hasn't started to put out any flower buds, so the leaves will still be very, very sweet. This is right in one of our pathways of our garden. And this is all I do. I just pull a few leaves like that. I might pull about 5 or 6 bunches like that and bring it inside to add to the salads with the green onions and the sorrel and so on. And it's really, really good. It's so delicious. Magali makes this wonderful dressing with fresh garlic from last year's harvest that we still have hanging on the wall. She'll crush it and add olive oil and a couple other things, and it's so good. On April 8th, the morning of the eclipse, Magali and I were out here transplanting. I transplanted some carrots over there, and Magali transplanted all of this lettuce. Just moved the leaves aside, which have been there since the fall. And we spaced them one head of lettuce between each of these walking onions. Like that. You see, so there's walking onions there. There's a head of lettuce between. Two walking onions there, and a head of lettuce in between. And then, of course, between those 2 heads of lettuce, another. And that should give them enough space. The onions will help protect the lettuce. And this is one of my perennial areas of the garden. So a true food forest, because these walking onions come back every year. And so what I plan on doing with this lettuce when I harvest it is I only cut it. I don't pull the plant. Because what I want the lettuce to do is to eventually, after we've eaten a bunch of it, I want to let it grow and go to seed, go to flower and to seed. And then the seed will be there right up until the fall and through the winter, and it'll fall down during the fall and through the winter. And then next April, along with these walking onions, we will also have lettuce that grows all by itself, which is a true food forest. And we're gonna add other things that come perennially every year, because that's eventually the idea. The idea of a food forest is that everything grows autonomously, independently. There are some things that you always have to plant every year, but there are some things you can find that self-seed, and that's so good. The self-seeding vegetables. Sunflower is another one that self-seeds. Here are the carrots that I transplanted, also among the walking onions, which are a bit smaller over here because it's a little bit wetter, this part of the garden, a little bit lower. I'm hoping because of that, because of the extra wetness, the carrots should love that. We'll see. And the soil's nice and soft. I had a real thick layer of leaves here, which I pushed aside to transplant the carrots, and then pushed it right back in place, because carrots are what I like to call a polite vegetable. They don't grow too well shaded by other vegetables, so they should do real fine now, because these leaves aren't going to stop them. Here is another element of our food forest area of this garden, the perennial area. This is stinging nettle, which is wonderful. It is so delicious and so healthy. The only thing you need to do is you need to be wearing gloves when you harvest it. But then, once you've put it in water to either, steam it or cook it very lightly, this sting goes away. Snow sting. And it's really, really delicious. By the way, these are pieces of aloe that are in the garden here that I had already used, and I throw them as a mulch in the garden because they're so bitter. Help keep some of the bugs away from the vegetables. The garlic that I planted last October is doing really well. I look forward to July when we get to harvest all this. I can't wait to see how they did. Can't remember how many we planted. About almost 600, I think. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. Here's something else I like to harvest in the early spring. Garlic that I have planted throughout the garden. That's there not necessarily to harvest the garlic bulbs, but just to grow as a companion plant, and to harvest the garlic tasting leaves in the early spring. And the thing about garlic is if you leave it in the garden without harvesting it, one garlic, which would be one of these stems, turns into up to a dozen garlics, because obviously that garlic that maybe had between 6 and 12 cloves, well, each clove becomes a new garlic. So one garlic becomes 12 garlic. So if you do nothing, it multiplies. So if I decided to pick this garlic bunch here, which would have been one garlic last fall, if I decide to pick it this fall, or this July, let's say, instead of the one I would have got last year, I'll have maybe, like, looks like there's at least 10 there. And that was from simply doing nothing. And we've got this beside some sage here. Wasabi. The wasabi's coming up really early this year, which is really nice. Got some there and some there. Planted right beside the creek. The comfrey I put in last fall is coming back. Very happy about that. I surrounded each comfrey with a whole bunch of this walking onion because the walking onion is one of the first things to appear. So it would help me find my comfrey. Another one over here. Here's another couple ones over here. I basically put it at the end of each one of our sun rays that are outside of the vegetable garden. And here are those basket willows, those purple basket willows that I propagated, the cuttings. And I made that tree propagation video last fall. Here they are now, sprouting, all of them. Really happy. I'm really happy about this. That's so nice. I still have to uncover all of my pots of native wildflowers and shrubs that I planted last fall. Hope to do that in the next few days. I'm sowing my peas today. Almost all of them are homegrown and most from last year's harvest, but some from the previous year. The one packet I've got left over from last year are some peas from Seed Savers Exchange, Amish snap peas. But all the rest, and these yellow packets are collected from a couple of years ago. I'm going to use if I need them, but I'm going to start with last year's seeds. So a whole bunch of seeds. These should be enough. I love the variety of colors. Really beautiful. Those dark brown ones, those are Pois de Charlevoix peas from Quebec. Beautiful area of Quebec. North of the St. Lawrence, northeast of Quebec City. Beautiful area, not far from Tadoussac. I got those seeds from La Société des Plantes originally in Kamouraska. So yeah, we'll see if these are enough. I hope so. They should be. The advantage of collecting your own seeds is you get so many more. And so you can be very generous when you're sowing. And with peas, because they're self-feeders, because the peas provide shelter to a bacteria that fixes nitrogen onto the peas' roots that feeds them. The nitrogen that the bacteria gets from the atmosphere. So the peas are self-fed, so they can be planted really thickly. They do really well. They'll just spread out all onto this trellis, which I made from recycled wood from a local carpenter. The fencing is rolls of fence bought at a hardware store or gardening center. In this part of the garden, I had put a thick layer of leaves, which I just pulled back here. I pulled the leaves back, threw the seeds down on the surface under where the leaves were, and now I'm just going to throw a little bit of compost on top of that. And after they've sprouted and grown about as high as this first post here, I will put the leaves back in place. Now I'm going to just throw some compost, not a thick layer, centimeter at most, probably less, layer of compost on top of that. Because eventually the leaves will also cover the roots. So the peas just have to sprout, grow a few centimeters, a couple inches, and then I will cover up the base with the leaves. And there we have it, all covered. And that was just 3 or 4 handfuls of compost to cover all of that. I've been hardening off my onions. I hope to transplant them in the next few days. These are my red onions. I've got a couple thousand cells of vegetables in here, some of which I just sowed yesterday. Broccoli and cauliflower, basil, native ground cherry, coriander, millet, kohlrabi. But then others I did last week, or a couple weeks ago. This was March 25th. These are beets. I love beets. All sorts of beets. I get hundreds of them this year. Some more onions. Some radishes over there. Cabbage, arugula. Got some lettuce growing in the ground here. Lots of cabbage, and I planted more cabbage as well. This is all cabbage in here. Here's something else I got up to this week. I put up a cattle panel. Actually, this is a hog panel. It's not as wide as a cattle panel. It's not. I haven't finished putting it up. I've still got this one to put up here, and I'd like to maybe videotape while I'm doing it, so I show you how you can do it all by yourself. It was surprisingly not difficult because these things are a bit heavy, but I'll show you how I did it anyway. Here's Minnie getting some of her greens. This is a type of grass that grows all over the place here. I'm actually not sure what type it is. If any of you know, that would be great. Midi seems to like it anyway. Midi loves to follow me all over the place when I'm out here. Okay, let's go, Midi.